Yes. What is up? It's been, I don't know, it feels like decades, but we're back. Joined, as always, by the one and only Gary in Dallas. I don't want to do too much of an intro here because it's been a minute. Gary, I miss you. How you doing, man?
I am doing really.
You're off doing big things, man.
Well, I am.
Going to all the big fights. I see you.
I was gonna go to this fight, but they want you there all week. You got to be there all week. I can't go all week. Like they want you there. They wanted you there to get in on Monday and then be there from Tuesday to Saturday. I can't do that. That's ridiculous. And they don't pay for it, right? They're not paying for that, right? That's insane to me. But it's good to be back. I was at the Hall of Fame event. And someone came up to me when I was online to get food and said, "You're the guy from the MCR podcast."
No way.
Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
No way.
It was a British guy too.
It was a British guy? Oh my god.
Yeah. A British accent. I don't know that. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. He's like, that's a really good podcast. Why don't you guys do it anymore? I was like, we are. And then it's been 2 months since then, and we have, but we're back. And Matt, we're gonna come back every week, right? Every week, once a week.
I hope, man. I hope to God.
All right.
I hope to God. Things are like, in terms of like my personal and professional life, things are definitely a little bit more calmed down in terms of like workload.
Yeah.
Things are pretty crazy there for the last 3 or 4 months. But I got a new job with a different promotional company, so things have relaxed a little bit on the workload. So yes, hopefully, I mean, I reset the studio up at my house, so hopefully we'll do more content. I want to, of course, Gary. I mean, that's without
once
doubt.
A week, and we could do the other channel too.
Once a week would be perfect. If we can do, it might not be a set day or time because I think my schedule's always in flux, but once a week for sure is a goal that's achievable. I hope.
I told my wife twice a week.
And for those who don't know,
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Gary can always do shows without me too. He knows that. He could keep the channel going without me here. He just has his own channel now, which is big. Texas Boxing Scene. Go check it out. Subscribe.
It's completely dedicated to Texas boxing. All proceeds go to autism research and recovery.
Is that true though? Is it completely dedicated to Texas boxing?
Yeah.
You've never interviewed people that weren't from Texas?
It has to have something to do with Texas boxing.
You've never been to a fight and done videos from fights that weren't in Texas?
No, they fight, but they a Texas fighter, someone fighting a Texas fighter.
Oh, damn it, Gary! You can't wriggle your way out of this one. No, I don't know. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and check your archive now. Let me check you and see if it's actually Texas Boxing Scene.
Everything in there is either a Texas fight, a Texas fighter, or fighting Michael McKinson I've interviewed. He was fighting Virgil Ortiz. But he's a really good dude. Like, he's a really, really likable dude. And everyone said he showed that he belonged in that Virgil Ortiz fight. I didn't see it that way, but, it is what it is. I really like Michael McKinson.
I mean, he might be a swell guy. He might be a swell chap, as they say over there across the pond. But why was he fighting Virgil Ortiz? That makes no sense.
When they announced the fight, that was when Bam won his world title. And I got to talk to Eddie. And Eddie was convinced that he was either going to win or really turn heads. Like, he was convinced of it. I don't know how much of that is salesmanship, but I asked him, like, why not give him, like, you put, that was right after you put Conor Bennett in with Chris Algieri. He said, why not give him a former champ, someone like that? He's like, well, Michael McKinnon doesn't sell tickets. I could put Conor Bennett in with Chris Algieri and sell out an arena. I can't do that with Michael McKinson. I said, okay. But why are you just giving him to Virgil Ortiz? Like, I'm not giving him to Virgil Ortiz. I expect him to go out and compete and possibly win. So, to me, stylistically, I thought it was a nightmare fight for McKinson. I thought he fought right into Virgil's hands. If you go back and you watch a lot of McKinson tape, he looks like Prince Nassim without any of the power. He's lunging, he's jumping in. I'm like, he's going to get caught with a left hook, and the fight's going to be over spectacularly, right? But he fought a disciplined fight, but once you do that, now you're not really fighting to win anymore. And he said in the post-fight press conference that he was really thought that he was going to be the first one to go the distance. Well, was that your goal, or was your goal to win the fight? Was your goal to end his knockout streak, or was it to win the fight? You know, I gave him a ton of credit, right? Coming over to Texas to fight a Texas fighter in his hometown. You know you're not getting a decision. You know you're not getting a fair shake. Like, I gave him a lot of credit for doing that. A lot of fighters wouldn't do that.
I mean, for a paycheck, a lot of fighters will do a lot.
How big do you think his paycheck was, though? Like, I mean, I'm sure he got a nice check.
Remind me, Gary, was that fight like an eliminator? Was like the sanctioned body bullshit involved?
It became an eliminator the day before the fight. Like, we were 2 days before the fight. We were at the press conference, and that's when they announced that it was an eliminator for the WBA. But it wouldn't be for Spence's belt. It'd be for who's the regular champ? What's it? The Lithuanian. Stonius. Yeah, it'd be fighting him. And then, like, we were talking because they announced it, and I was talking to McKinson, interviewed him. So you can come right back to Texas 6 months from now if you win and fight Spence for his belt. And he's like, yeah, I could stay right here. And I was talking to Virgil. Virgil's like, nah, man, it's not for Spence's belt. I'm like, oh shoot, you're right. It'd be for the regular belt. So like Virg, I'm not Virgil's manager, but Virgil wouldn't fight Stonius for a regular belt, would he? I mean, maybe if the payday's right, but how much is a Stonius paycheck? Right? Like, there's bigger fights for him, and he's not going to fight for that belt. It doesn't mean anything to him.
Hold on. Let me see, like, Virgil Ortiz's last, like, 3 or 4 fights, because I want to judge this fool right now.
It's Hooker, it's Mean Machine, and then it's McKinson.
It's rough. I would say, like, the last time he's had, like, legitimate competition, where it was like, okay, this is an opponent that makes sense for his come up as a prospect, would be like Orozco.
I think they all made sense up until McKinson. The McKinson fight made no sense. Well, like Stonius, I mean, Mean Machine, he gave Crawford a heck of a fight. Like,
he gave him a heck of a round.
3 rounds. I had him up 3 rounds, and it might have been 4 points had it been ruled a knockout, which it wasn't. But he had Crawford. He had Verge wobble too, but he had Crawford in a world of trouble early, and then Crawford came on. But like Mean Machine is a real fighter. Like, he's not going to get a world title because the division is too stacked, but he's a good fighter. And then, like,
Hooker's fine, I guess. I mean, he's all right.
Former world champ.
I mean, did you see his last fight? Dude,
that's my homie too. Like, Hooker is like one of my top 2 or 3 favorite guys in the whole sport. Like, I love Hooker.
That was rough. Dude, he should retire. That was so bad. Then we had Brad Solomon. Remember him? That was a great fight.
That was okay. That was in the bubble over a long layoff. I don't even count that. It counts.
A long layoff? It wasn't a long layoff.
That was in the bubble. That was, yes, it was.
No, Brad Solomon was in 2019.
Wait, Solomon was, who did he fight? Oh, who did he fight in the bubble?
Samuel Vargas. He fought Samuel Vargas.
There you go. Yeah.
Come on, Gary. Come on.
Yeah, okay, I keep that one too. We did an immediate reaction to that show too. The Solomon fight.
It did decent numbers to that reaction. Ortiz. Pretty fight, but that did numbers. And then you had Orozco like 3 or 4 months before that. And then that same year you had Mauricio Herrera. That was a decent year, I guess. He fought 4 times that year. But regardless, like, if you're Virgil Ortiz, McKinson was just a stay busy fight, honestly. And it turned into a stay busy fight that wasn't a stay busy fight because of injuries and bullshit, right? Like, McKinson should have been 4 months, 5 months tops after Mean Machine. It turned to be a whole year after Mean Machine.
And it was announced December of 2021. Didn't fight till August of 20. I mean, I'm not blaming Verge. Verge got sick. Verge had a legitimate health concern. But I'm saying there was a long layoff there. It was like Joshua Pula fight. Like, can't we just get this fight over with? No one's really interested in this fight. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, and again, if you look at his the schedule in 2019 when he fought Orozco, that was in August, and then he fought Brad Solomon that December. You know, like, it would have been almost on par with like a toughish fight in Mean Machine, and then a tune-up, stay busy fight in the wintertime. It just didn't turn out that way.
I
So it
was
made the
one
fight
that's
even made less sense because if it's a stay busy fight, if the fighter needs to fight 4 or 5 times a year, we let him off. But when it's been a 12-month layoff, and then you fight Michael McKinnison, and you're a top 6, 7 guy in the division, it makes zero sense. Even though McKinnison's undefeated, even though Eddie Hearn was talking up, how he's amazing, and and you just say he reminds you of Prince Nassim. No, I mean, no one thought he was going to win rounds or be decent against Virgil Ortiz. No one thought he had a chance.
I really don't think he was. People gave him credit for going rounds, but it was clear what his game plan was to go. He came out like he had a set, right? And he came right into him. And after that, he was in there to survive. He didn't land a punch of consequence, I would say, until about the 6th round. And look, Virgil's a pretty good defensive fighter, right, for what he is, but he's still there to be hit, right? Like Virgil Ortiz is not Pernell Whitaker, right? Like you should be able to hit Virgil. If he doesn't steamroll you, you should be able to hit him with some shots. I'm not going to say you're going to sit there and tee off on him, but he's not an elusive guy. It's hard to hit.
No, I think a lot of his trouble is going to be shown, or his weaknesses are going to be shown against guys like Crawford, guys like Spence, guys that are two-way fighters, guys that have really good defensive ability on top of great offensive ability. I think Ortiz is going to be sort of under that level always until they move up, because I don't think Ortiz has that complete skill set. He's a great boxer puncher, but I see guys like Spence and Crawford eating up boxer punchers all the time. That type of style, it's going to be too much for him.
I got to tell you, I was with Verge up until the weigh-in. I don't know. He says he can still make 47. He looked 15 pounds bigger than Blair Cobbs. He looked 15 pounds bigger than Maurice Hooker. He looked 15 pounds bigger than McKinson all fight week. He made the weight, no problem. He made it on like he was supposed to. I don't know. That boy looks like a middleweight if I ever saw one. Like he's big. I don't know that he's going to be able to make 47 much longer. He says he can. I'm just telling you, like he looked big.
I wonder how much of it too is just like undisciplined, because he's switching camps constantly now. He's a guy that just, in my mind, isn't really focused on the game.
Robert Garcia said that he's the hardest worker he's ever had in his camp.
Oh my God, Robert Garcia loves a paycheck. Robert Garcia
Manny
loves
Robles, you can go check my interview on Texas Boxing Scene with Manny Robles, said the same thing. I'm not in his camp, but everyone credits him for his work ethic. I'm not there, Matt. Right? I don't know. I'm just telling you what the people who are there say.
I feel like there's a
Robert Garcia told me he told me in that interview, Robert Garcia 2 years ago, that Bam Rodriguez was the best fighter in his camp. Virgil Ortiz, when he was in that same camp, told me the same thing, that Bam Rodriguez was the best fighter in the camp. Turns out Bam Rodriguez is the best fighter in that camp. We're gonna get into Bam Rodriguez. He fights on in the co-main, and I'm not exactly sure why he's having this fight, but we're gonna get into Bam. The question becomes, like, who is Virgil Ortiz ready for? I really thought after the Mean Machine fight and the Hooker fight, I thought he was ready, right? Whether or not he's going to win that fight with Crawford, whether or not he's going to win that fight with Spence, I don't know. But he's ready. He's ready. Like, he's progressed enough. He's fine-tuned enough. It's time. It's time. You know, I didn't get the McKinson fight. I didn't really fully understand why they made that fight. I didn't get it when they announced it back in December of 2021. I didn't get when they announced it after it fell through and they put it together again. Like, I feel at that point you could have put him in with anyone, right? Like, you could have put him in with basically anyone. And they chose McKinson. I'm glad they did for McKinson. Like I said, I talked to McKinson. He's a great guy. I really enjoyed McKinson. I give him a lot of respect. Give him props for what he did going in to Texas to fight Virgil Ortiz as an undefeated prospect. But I didn't see a need for the fight. Like, when he fought Alex Martin took that fight. Two weight classes above his best weight on 1 day notice. I didn't see a need. And I don't think McKinson looked good. I didn't see a need. Like, why are we doing this now? He didn't think after that fight he was going to get another chance at the Virgil fight. You can go back and watch my interview with Michael McKinson after that fight, after the Alex Martin fight, Chi-Town Heat. So that's where we're at now. I don't know where Matt is. I don't know. I don't know where Matt is. Anyone know where Matt went? I'm gonna text him. But I'm gonna keep talking. I don't have an agenda. Matt has it, so I'm just using my ad lib skills now. Let me text Matt real quick. All right, I'm still in the show. Trying to figure out what's going on with Matt. So relatively big fight coming up tomorrow. Canelo Alvarez, Triple G3. You guys into this fight? You guys think this is a big fight? This is a big deal? I gotta tell you, I think this fight is gonna bomb, absolutely bomb in the box office, like as a pay-per-view draw, as a pay-per-view sell. First off, there's just way too many ways to stream this. The Zone keeps increasing their cost and increasing their price and giving you less and less content, right? It's never giving you less content than it gives you now. But it's never been more expensive than it is. In the U.S., it's a boxing app. Like, I know in other countries, it's got other content and things like that. But in the U.S., it's the boxing app. It's giving you less and less boxing, but it's increasing its price tag by 50%. It didn't go from 100 to 110. It went from 1 to 150, and it's giving you less boxing. And then it's charging you for the Canelo fights, which was supposed to be the end of the pay-per-view model. Right? Like, it was supposed to be the end of the pay-per-view model. And now we're getting more and more and more and more and more and more and more pay-per-views. I don't know what to make of that. I think with the amount of ways there are to stream it, the cost, the state of the economy worldwide and in the U.S., I see this thing absolutely busting. Like, I don't think this is a must-see fight. Like, the first two were so hyped. There was such a build-up. They were such big fights. Like, Canelo's a bigger star now than he was in the first fight. He's a bigger star than he was in the second fight. But I don't see this as a huge, massive deal. Like, I don't see the hype. I don't see the build-up. This isn't. It's a good fight. I don't see this as appointment television anymore, like the first two were. But let me know. I mean, when I say bad, I don't think they're going to release the numbers, and they don't have to. But I think if they did, we would see this thing come in between 300,000 and 400,000. Which is it a bust? I mean, that's not bad considered other pay-per-views, but it's bad for a Canelo pay-per-view. I really think we're going to be looking at 300,000 to 400,000 pay-per-views. What do you guys think? Y'all want to put in the comment what you guys are thinking? How many pay-per-views you guys think this is going to do? Because again, I'm looking at this. I'm not seeing the hype. I'm not seeing the build-up. And I'm not overly turned on by the fight. It's a good fight. Do we think Canelo stops him? I think it's obvious that Triple G is in this for the same reason why everyone else in America goes to work, for the paycheck, right? He's going to get a big, fat paycheck out of this. I don't know. You sound good, Matt. You sound good.
Okay. You have no idea what just happened.
I know you fixed it quick. I know you fixed it on the go, which was top notch, my man.
Oh my gosh.
And I just went off. I talked about Bam. I talked about the interview where Robert Garcia
Of course you talked about Bam when I wasn't here. Of course.
2 years ago, Bam was the best fighter in the camp.
Yes, you've been saying that for years, that Robert Garcia told you years ago.
Virgil told me the same thing. Yeah. Bam was the best fighter in the camp. Turns out Bam is the best fighter in the camp.
I just want Roman Gonzalez to beat him.
That was the one fight I was concerned about I'm not concerned about that anymore. Not after the Shristakat Sorungasai fight. Like, I'm not worried about anyone anymore. The only guy I was worried about was because I thought Rungvisai would be the next best guy, but he was kind of shot, right? Like, stylistically, he's just a brute force, and like he could manhandle a smaller Bam, and he didn't, right? He was too shot. Chocolatito is just like the perfect offensive fighter. Like, he's so good, but
he's old.
He's old, and Bam is just too athletic and too quick, and he moves too much. I don't know if Chocolatito in his prime beats Bam right now.
Oh, in his prime, he definitely does. Come on.
Do you see how good Bam Rodriguez is?
Don't stop, Gary. He's the best low man of all time.
For now. But this is like Kobe on the come up, right? This is like Kobe in 2000 when he's averaging 30 points a game at 21 years old. I was like, wow, look at this guy. He's not, Bam doesn't have the resume yet. 10 years from now, when we look back at Bam, 10, 12, 15 years from now, would it shock you if we look at Bam as the best little man ever?
Would it shock me? It's hard. It sucks, Gary, because I have to agree with you. I mean, like Bam, his resume at like 20 years old or whatever it is, it's pretty impressive. I mean, if in 5 years' time we start talking about him in that context, it's possible. He's at the perfect like spot here where a lot of those legends that we talk about in that discussion are now 35 years old and are phasing out of the sport. So he can chew them all up right now because they're all getting older. Like Estrada is getting older. Gonzalez is getting older. Obviously, he just beat Rungsvi. Like, he's getting older. He beat Quadras too, right? So like these are all like older fighters that we talk about as those legends. It's one of those things where it's a little bit timing aspect to it, but that's with all sports. You know, we talk about this like all the time, Gary, about how, especially in boxing, it's the young eating the old constantly, and the old often are the legends and people that we like the most. But that is how it happens. So, is it possible that Bam goes on a 5-year run? Absolutely. Where he beats Roman Gonzalez, Estrada. Maybe moves up and faces Inoue and beats him because Inoue is getting a little bit older. He's faced injuries. That's all possibilities. He would have to do a lot, though, I think, to eclipse Roman Gonzalez and where Inoue is going too. Like he's kind of behind a few steps from Inoue, where like Inoue is now in that conversation as like he's one of the best little men of all time. I just think that. Yes, Gary.
I have Inoue higher pound for pound. I didn't mean to cut you off. That's my bad. I have Inoue higher pound for pound than I ever had Estrada, Chocolatito, or Ricardo Lopez. But all time, I don't put Inoue ahead of any of those guys. Do you? Chocolatito, Estrada, Ricardo Lopez.
Close.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wait, look, he's better than Estrada. You don't put him ahead of Estrada?
All time?
Stop it. Yeah, of course.
I rank him higher than Estrada right now.
We're talking about different Estrada here, right? Like Ron Francisco Estrada? Yes.
Yeah, Estrada.
Yes.
Oh, Inoue's better. So if you're ranking all the little men, 1 to 20 or whatever, you would put, okay.
Inoue above Estrada? Yes.
Ricardo Lopez? Because that was...
He's like the legacy pick. He's like the legacy pick. So like he's
that's the Bill Russell. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. All right, we're really gonna argue that hard against it.
Even though in all reality, like if you put like Ricardo Lopez, like prime him versus all these guys in the prime, like he probably doesn't beat them all. But that's beside the point. Yeah, he's probably in that top 3 too, just because he's a legacy pick. I would probably say Roman Gonzalez is the best little man of all time.
I would say
Ricardo Lopez.
He's cleared the competition now. Like I'd say that's clear. Like it used to be a debate. Like I'd say Lopez. Chocolatito is clearly the best little man of all time. By little man, I mean anything under featherweight, so 122 and down.
Yeah, I mean he's better than what's his name? Like Jose Galaxy, who was like a legend.
Ivan Calderon, who I'm a huge fan of, as y'all know.
Like Roman Gonzalez is better than all those guys. Better resume, better style, better fights. Like more impact on the sport too. I mean, let's be honest, Roman Gonzalez carried 4 divisions on his back for the last 5-7 years.
And that's kind of, to me, the difference, right? Lopez stayed at 105. Calderon went to 105 and then 108. And even at 108, he wasn't the same fight at 108 and he was at 105. Chocolatito kept going up, but it didn't seem to matter, right? The issue that Bam's going to have is that Bam could have started at 108, but he just went straight to 115. So now he's not going to collect all those belts the way that Chocolatito did. Bam, because he started at 115, he's not going to become a 1-8, 112, 115, 4-division world champ. He's probably only going to be a 2-division world champ, 15 and 18.
Yeah, but we also live in an era where like there's a lot of unifications. So him being undisputed at 115 is a distinct possibility, and that would be a huge feather in his cap. That's probably bigger than, let's say, a Inoue catching like vacant belts, or like catching like the 3rd best champion in the division at like 108 and 112. You know what I mean? Like, not that Inoue didn't have great wins in those divisions, but he didn't face the best always. He just collected a lot of belts and then started facing really great competition at 118. So Bam could, I mean, at 115, if he clears this out, he's in the running now. Like, he's the top 5 best lower men of all time. If he clears that 115, becomes undisputed, doesn't even need to go to 118 to cement that. 118 would be what it would like catapult him over Roman Gonzalez. If he was to go up to 118 and beat Inoue after being undisputed at 115, he would be the best man of all time.
He should go up to 118 and fight Donaire.
Dude, why do you want Bam to beat up all the old guys, man? Donaire's had enough, man. Let that man retire.
All right, fair enough. I like Donaire. Because 115 was supposed to be Josh's division.
Yeah, but it's not going to be Josh's division. Come on. Like, Bam could beat Josh right now.
Bam says his brother could beat him. But,
he's the little brother. He has to say that.
I would brother not beat my brother. Even if it's not true, I still say it, right? Like, I get my ass beat by my brother, but I'll beat your ass next time.
Dude, let's be honest. Josh Franco must be walking around a little bit different because his brother has eclipsed him in every discussion. And it's his little brother. Come on.
They are so tight. Like, they are it's such a tight family. It's such a good family. Like, Figueroa seems to be thrilled that his brother's way better than he is. Like, he kind of feels like he pissed away a lot of his talent. He's glad to see his brother hasn't done that.
Yeah, that's different, though. That's different. You know what I mean? Like, it's not because Josh, like, pissed away his talent. It's because Josh isn't that good. Like, he's not great. Like, Josh is good, but he's not great.
I'll tell you.
He trains hard. Like, I'm not saying, like, Josh is, like, doesn't train hard. I'm not saying all that stuff, but, like, he's just not a great. You can look at him fight and be like, yeah, he's good, but he's just good. He's going to be a top 8 guy in the division, and then that's it.
It's the best division in the sport right now.
And his brother might be the best guy in the division.
I think Josh gets overlooked now because of how good Bam is. Like, Josh is good. Josh is really good. Josh is really good.
What Josh Franco win? Have you gone and be like, fuck, man? Like, that's mind blowing. Like, Bam.
I'm not saying he's a pound for pound guy. I'm not saying like he's like when you see Shakur Stevenson just pitch a shutout like he's Jacob deGrom, right? Like, no one hits him at all. Or when Bam does what he does, right? It's not or Boots, right? Like, wow. I'm not saying he's at that level. I'm not saying like he's the future of the sport. I'm saying he's a really good fighter. I'm not saying he's
really good. He's a really good fighter. Yes, Gary. Yes, I'm agreeing with you. He's a really good fighter. Is he a great fighter? No. Bam is great. Like, there's a reason we're talking about him, like, in this discussion of, like, in a few years' time, he's going to be the best limit of all time. You're not bringing it up about Josh. You're not saying, like, oh, in a few years' time, Josh Franco is going to be the best low man of all time.
He's got the right timing to it. If he can go through these guys, the one that you're talking about, if he can go through these guys, he can really make a legacy for himself. If he can beat those top names at 115 pounds, he can build up a little resume for himself.
Look, it's a knock that always put on Inoue that he skipped 115. when 115, especially at that time, was the division. I mean, at this point, like I said, like a lot of these guys are phasing out of their prime, clearly. So Bam's, facing a older crop of guys that Inoue could have faced and could have cleaned up and could have cemented his legacy, but he didn't. If Bam does it, it's huge. Honestly, like it might catapult him over Inoue because the names that he would beat that Inoue hasn't beat, because Inoue's beat guys like Rodriguez or like Maloney or Donaire, when Donaire is not who he was 5-8 years ago.
I want to go back. I want to ask you, right? Like, just travel back in time with me before the Quadras fight, right? When Bam was fighting on Wilder Fury 1 at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And he's fighting on Spence and Mikey Garcia. And I'm telling you, I'm trying to tell everyone who will listen to me how special this little kid from San Antonio is, Josh Franco's little brother. Did you ever think he would be as good as I told you he was? Or did you think it was all just bluster?
Well, unfortunately, Gary, let's be honest. Like most of those fights, he probably wasn't, like I wasn't able to see it. If he's on pay-per-view undercards, like those aren't televised most of the time. So he's on untelevised portions of big events. So I don't think anyone really knew of him. Like you were talking about him because you knew him from the gym, you knew him because he's Texas. You go to these events a lot more than other people, so you see him live in person fight. It's different. Like for me, for example, I only saw maybe like two fights before the Quadras fight, honestly, of his work.
Yeah,
like he was just outside out of mind.
He had fought twice in the ESPN top rank bubble when they had their summer series that COVID year, and then he fought his first matchroom card. He fought on Mikey Garcia, lost to Sandor Martin, and he kind of like that's when people really started to take note of him. Eddie Hearn told me that he really didn't know what he had. Like he knew he was good, right? And when we were in Arizona for the Quadras fight, he was getting on the elevator. I said, "You have no idea how good Bam is." He's like, "No, he's really good. He can go up and down the weight class." Like I said, "No, he's the best fighter you have in your stable." And he kind of looked at me like, "You know who's on my stable?" And I asked him, he's like, "Yeah, Devin Haney." And the pros fight, I was like, "Were you surprised he did as good as he did? He handled Quadras." It's like, "No, before the fight, Devin Haney told me he knows him from the amateurs and he's really, really special." It's like, he signed him not knowing what he knew he was good, but he had no idea how good he was. Like, yeah, Bam's not like the other guys on your stable. Bam is different. And not that I'm saying anything bad about it. He's got plenty of good fighters. He's the best fighter on the stable.
We're minute 33 into the show.
You want to talk about the relatively big fight coming up?
Or just, anything other than Bam Rodriguez. Because, I'll also say this for, like, Frank in the chat saying how big can Bam get. He's a low guy, so there's always going to be a ceiling to, like, stardom and, like, entertainment value, so to speak, into, like, the wider audience and masses. But he could absolutely beat the guys at 115. Like, that's a possibility. Yes, because they're older, but also because he's that good. 118 and beating Inoue, I think it's going to be that, like, if he does that, the sky's the limit for what he can do. Gary?
Well, one thing, and I don't think this was told to me in secret, so I'm just going to say, Anthony Lever told me at the weigh-in for the Virgil Ortiz-McKinson fight, Anthony Lever works for Matchroom, that the plan is to have him fight 4 times a year, twice in San Antonio, and then twice on the undercard in the co-main event of Canelo, right? So he's, when Canelo fights, he's going to be the co-main event to Canelo, and that's going to be the kind of thing they do. And then he's going to have 2 cards a year where he headlines in San Antonio. So, how big can he be? He could be a DAZN star. He could be a guy who can headline smaller cards, mid-sized cards. He can co-main.
What was that term you just used, Gary? The
mid-sized
DAZN star? No,
give me a DAZN star. Yeah.
What's that?
DAZN. It's the
DAZN?
DAZN.
Dude, every time they take my fucking money every month, man, I just get pissed off, and then I forget to like take off the subscription and just watch it in other ways. Allegedly.
I would at this point, whatever. Eddie told us it was the end of the pay-per-view model. And not only is it not the end of the pay-per-view model, they're now charging you 50% more. It went from $100 a year to $150 to give you less content and to charge you for pay-per-views. You got to do what you got to do.
Gary, see, there's a lot of inflation right now in the economy. So DAZN, Blavnik, those guys, like they gotta get their money back. Sorry, Gary. Canelo's now $50 pay-per-views on DAZN.
$64.95. It's not 50. It's $64.95.
I don't know if I don't, actually fine.
Don't, right? Like, I'm not telling anyone to steal anything. I'm just saying don't buy it. If you can go to a website and that website that you randomly type random letters into your keyboard show the fight, then I mean that's on them. That's not on you.
Allegedly. We do not support piracy on this channel.
I hate it that Facebook now rejects those links when you post them. They don't let you post them. They can't. They block them.
Really?
Yeah.
Facebook sucks.
My boy Chris Noble, who runs Die Hard Boxing, right? I said, can I post this link in your group? I don't want to get you in trouble. It's like, I don't care. Go ahead, right? So I post it. It posts it, and it takes it down like 3 seconds later, and it sends you like a warning, like stop doing that.
Oh my god, it's so bad.
Why does Facebook care? Like, why would Facebook care?
Before we get into like big topics, right? Do we want to talk about, because I mean we talked about offline a little bit, Gary, only because I know the people involved to some degree. Do you want to talk about the Regis Prograis purse bid that like kind of surprised a lot of people in the industry?
I do, because I don't think anyone knows who this person is that bought this world title fight, right? Like, go ahead. I'm going to mute up so I don't cut you off, because I've been doing it all day. I've been a little antsy. So I'm going to let you kind of explain what you know. And
for those that apparently, don't know, I guess, Regis Prograis and Jose Cepeda went to purse bid. And I forget the exact amount. It was over $2 million was the purse bid, the final, the winning purse bid for the bout. And it was won by Marv Nation, which is run by Marvin Rodriguez. I'm not gonna get too into it, because now with my day job, me and you, Gary, we talked offline about certain things that I won't discuss on here. Because like I work in some of these circles. I'll say this. I'm not that surprised that Marvin went and placed a bid on a big fight, air quotes. I'll get to that in a second. I am shocked about the amount and shocked by like the choice of the fight. There is a connection with Marv Nation and Probellum. They did used to work back in the day, and Probellum, MTK, Regis Prograis. There's just connections there that go back, I guess. But I am pretty shocked again about the over $2 million for a Prograis Cepeda fight, which is not worth it. I do know they are trying to make a pay-per-view. I forget where they're trying to put it at. But I do know that they're working on pay-per-view, and I want to say they hired somebody from HBO, from back when the HBO days, for run it. But yeah, Gary, I don't know if you have like any specific questions, because I don't know what the people are really like.
No,
guys, there's a lot of promoters in the game, and ever since Al Heyman has entered the game and been the money behind the scene, and other promoters are the ones technically on the billing, he's not a promoter. I'm just kind of shocked it's taken maybe a little bit longer for something like that to happen.
If he puts this on pay-per-view, it's gonna bust. What price tag do you think he could put on this that would get people to buy it? $10?
Oh, no. Pay-per-view. Look, unfortunately, Gary, a lot of the shows here. So Marv Nation's one of the more consistent or busy promoters in the LA area. I'll say that. I'll give him that credit. You also have guys like
at his box rack. He puts on a lot of shows. He does.
Yeah, he does. He also has shows in Costa Rica. He has a co-promotional deal with Golden Boy with Yukasa Valier, who's like I forget what champion she's, what belt, IBF champion. And she's like lined up to fight Sinessa Estrada. I mean, before Estrada jumped ship from Golden Boy, I guess. So I don't know where that fight's lined up, but Marvin's been around and he's worked with some bigger players. Again, he worked with Probellum on some shows in Costa Rica as well. And again, he's also an LA promoter in my area. So he's a pretty frequent LA promoter. But all of like the small players, so to speak, in the LA area, you know, you have Marv Nation, you have All Star Boxing, you have Ed Holmes, you have Thompson Boxing, you have 360 with Tom Loeffler. I think, you know, most people that know just big time boxing think of Tom Loeffler, K2, and Triple G. Tom Loeffler also does 360 Promotions, which does their fights on UFC Fight Pass, I believe. He does a lot of shows in LA. Yeah, you have Elite Boxing Promotions, a new promotion that I work with. You have Red Promotions. You have a ton. You have Steve Bash, who just did the show with the YouTubers. One of the guys that fought KSI, I think. And who else? Like Rory Engelbert, who does the fights out of the hangar in OC. So we have a lot of players in the area. But Marvin is the one that I probably am the least surprised to put a bid like this. You know, he's a guy that has been connected, so to speak, in the entertainment industry for a while. He used to be in the music industry. He's worked with Red Promotions. You're like their president for 3 or 4 years, I believe. And then started Marv Nation. So I'm not surprised he put a big bid on a fight. I'm surprised by the amount. And like, this is the fight. Because like you say, Gary, he's planning to do a pay-per-view. And no matter what the price is, and it's going to be over $20. Because a lot of these promoters here in LA do their shows on pay-per-view. And it costs like $20. I know. Because you can't find streams for them. So sometimes you have to bite the bullet. It is a fighter you want to watch and you don't want to go pay for the ticket, or you don't want to call in a favor and get a free ticket. You just bite the bullet on pay-per-view and watch the one fighter on the card you want to see.
I wanted to ask
if it's Prograis Zepeda, he's going to charge, I think, $50 if I had to guess. Plus 50 plus.
It's gonna bomb. Like, it's gonna bomb bad. Like, it's a good fight for the boxing hardcore. It is. It's a fun fight. But how many people do you think you're going to get to buy that, right? Like, if Prograis versus Josh Taylor couldn't do pay-per-view, how is Prograis versus Zepeda going to be a pay-per-view fight?
The only other way, but again, this is not what they're planning from what I heard, so I'm hearing pay-per-view. But because of Marvin's connections or relationship with DAZN in some way and Golden Boy in some way, and I do know that they're sort of like shopping the fight to like network, so to speak, and to production crews. Like, they're not going to do it in-house. Obviously, DAZN would make a lot of sense for this fight, even though it's way overpriced. But come on, Gary, in 2018 when DAZN was launched, if they paid Prograis Zepeda a $2 million purse combined, would you have been shocked?
No, they were paying everyone.
I mean, so I feel like a DAZN sort of network budget to throw on the event and offset the cost would make the most sense, because they're not going to make their money back in pay-per-view. But that's not what I'm hearing.
And then the other question I wanted to ask you is, he has a fighter, I think he's 18 years old, Nathan Rodriguez, a 122-pounder. First, is there any relation between Marvin Rodriguez and Nathan Rodriguez? And B, how good is Nathan Rodriguez? What can we? Is he a?
Yes, he has two sons. He has Angel Moreno, and then Nathan Rodriguez. Angel just took his first loss. He was like 18-0, and I think he was set for like some version of like the WBC or something like that. I forget exactly. Or like it was an eliminator to get towards like a version of a belt, like an interim fight. And he took an L. It was a tough fight. Nathan's all right. He's just young, and he took a lot of fights down in Costa Rica and stuff. Sort of like the Devin Haney route, but
yeah,
a lot of them weren't sanctioned because the Costa Rican commission was a little bit iffy. Yeah. So that's a little bit unfortunate, because I think, like, you're taking punches that you don't need to be taking. You're a young guy, young kid. But he has some talent. I mean, I don't think he's like a Bam Rodriguez or a Josh Franco, but
If they
he's
manage
okay.
him right, if they carry him along, can he get to a world title fight?
No.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Like what?
No,
5 years
no.
from now, if they manage him, if they get him to 15-0, 20-0, can they get him into an eliminator where he can win an eliminator and then get
If
whether or
you
not he wins the title fight, who knows? But can they get him there?
if you for those that like out there watching on our YouTube channel, I posted some of the fights I did commentary for Red Promotions before I left that company, and then go to Elite Boxing Promotions on YouTube as well. You can see their last show or their two last shows, and one of them I did commentary for. There's a couple fighters that I see in this area that I'm like, you know what, if things align right, they might get into a position where they might get a big fight. Not saying they win it, but they might get a big fight. Alexis DeLuna, I think he could position himself into an eliminator, so to speak. He just beat Christian Camacho in July. I think Eric Mondragon, who was on PBC and took a draw, but real early in his career when he was like 4-0. He's really good. He's, I think, sort of coming into his own. He has a lot of polish, a lot of power too. He's looking, I think, real sharp. And like a total wild card is like Francisco Casillas. He's a guy that's 3-0-1 now, I think. But he just has a lot of skill, like a lot of posh to his style that I like. That maybe could go really far if he does a little bit better on the inside. His last fight was a draw, and it was a very tough fight. The guy he faced was real tough. I mean, one of those B-sides that you probably shouldn't have faced, to be honest.
Gary. And any idea on how he got all that money to bid? We won't go there. Which is kind of like okay.
No comment.
I'll
say this: he'll get the money. I know he already put the deposit.
Yeah.
But I think he'll get the money. At least to pay the person because he has to. I mean, that's something that he can really get sued on. But I mean, it's weird because I don't think people understand this in the sport. And it's something that I think, unless you like start writing boxing contracts, which I've done, you don't understand quite exactly. Most fighters, there's like official commission contract sheets that you have to use. You can't go like off sheet, so to speak. If you do, you have to put it on the commission sheet that you see this document or whatever. Like you have to make it very specific when you do that. But there are commission bout sheets, and most fighters sign those, let's say like 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out, right? But they sign them like online, right? So like, let's say like I'm writing it out, I email it to a fighter, he signs it, he signs it, sends it back to me, right? That contract isn't the real contract. It's sort of a stand-in contract. The real contract is what you sign at weigh-ins, and it's this like 3-tiered, when you can rip it off, or like one sheet's yellow, one sheet's pink, right? And you redo the contracts basically at weigh-ins, or you have to turn them in at weigh-ins, I should say. It can be done beforehand, so you can have that in advance. That could be there 6 weeks out if you are there in front of the fighter, I guess. But it has to be turned in at weigh-ins. Whatever is not in that contract, the commission can't hold a promoter to. So there'll be times, often for miscommunication, especially like per diem or hotels. Matchmakers will say, hey, I'll give you X amount of money for per diem for this fight, right? That never gets communicated. When it comes time for the official bout contract to be written up, that number is not there. A fire team's upset. That stuff happens more often than people think. And I think a lot of people that are fans don't understand that dynamic. So fighters, be careful what you sign, especially that official bout contract, because that is what matters the most.
It's good to know.
Like Gary, did you know that?
Not in the in-depth of that. Like, I've been around the commission. I've been around a lot of local shows throughout Texas. And I'm sure, I'm sure the commission between Texas and California are quite different, but I'm sure it's mostly the same, right? Like, it's the same. They function on the same principles. They just probably execute them a little differently. But I have a better knowledge than most, but probably not as well as you do on how that works.
Dude, we looked up medicals in Texas, right? I forget exactly why. I think it was because we had a fighter coming from Texas, and we wanted to see like what medicals they did, and they only fought in Texas, right? We had to look up like what blood work specifically they do. It's like 1/8 the amount of medical paperwork and procedures they need to get done in Texas. It's crazy. I was pretty shocked, to be honest. Yeah. I don't think they even require like EKGs. I don't think they require.
EKG is a round limit. Like, if you've had less than a certain amount of rounds fought, you don't need an EKG, or if you're under a certain age. So it's like either like 100 or 200 rounds, or under the age of 35, you don't need an EKG. The EKGs are expensive, so people try to stay away from them, which is why you get people with kind of weird records, like they have different names and stuff.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Because I think in California, once you're past like 35, you have to do like extra MRIs and like extra like cardio like exams. Like you have to do more. Like you instantly have to do more. You're at a high risk, they say. When in Texas, they're like, no, we're gonna start the basic stuff after 35. Don't worry, guys. Don't. If you have a heart problem, it's not our problem.
That's what, like, when I first did a small fight, I did a Guardia, the Rockin' fights in Long Island, and I was back there like interviewing fighters after the fight, and the doctors came in. Like in Texas, after the fight, you walk out of the ring, they look in your eyes, they say, "Open your mouth," they check your hands to make sure your hands aren't broken, and you go. In New York, it's like a full medical examination. It's there in like 20 minutes. It's not like what we do in Texas. It's like, he's not dead, he's good. You know where you are?
In California, those exams, like post-fight, are pretty what would be the term? Like discretionary. Like they get to pick, like, oh, that fighter seemed like he had a hard fight, so let's go double check him. You know, oh, that fight seemed fine. We don't need to send them off. They're good to go. You know. Frank in the chat complaining about the YouTubers that fight, and that CSAC allowed that. Look, man, commission's gonna get their check. That's all they care about. I mean, they're there for a job, to make money, and that's it for their bureaucratic institution. Like that's just all it is. There's some, I think, like legitimate good that like commissions do, but in large part commissions are just weird red tape. It's odd. It's very odd dealing with commissions, to be honest. I prefer not to deal with commissioners. Though it's weird also because like on fight night, most of them are super chill because like they're watching the fight, like they get to enjoy it too. They're getting paid at the end of the night. But I mean, it's just the commission. And people forget too that the promoter actually pays the commission. Like that's how they make money.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the night, the promoter literally hands them like multiple checks.
Yeah.
To pay for different sets of taxes and fees and such. So it just, that's a big fight, or it was a big fight. I mean, it really wasn't that YouTube event if you really looked at it, but it seemed like a big fight on paper. There's a lot of money behind it, so the commission's going to allow it. The same reason why like the commission back in the day allowed
McGregor
John Jones in the UFC to switch from Vegas to California on 4 days' notice after he tested positive for PEDs. Why? Because it was a big UFC event, and they were going to get some money.
That's ridiculous, by the way. You got to have some kind of standard, right? But when they approved McGregor to fight a 12-rounder when he's not fought even a 4-rounder, like
money. Because the commission gets paid more depending how many seats you sell too. How, like if it's on pay-per-view, the commission makes more money. Like there's a lot of things where like if it's a big fight, the commission gets paid out significantly compared to, let's say, a small local club show.
Yeah.
You know, where they're going to make $10, $15, $20,000, so to speak. But on a big show, they're going to make, I can only imagine. Because I know what we have to pay in taxes for ticket sales for our shows. And I can only imagine if you are selling 19,000 seats. You know, like that fee must be drastic. Especially because once you start putting like the prices for the seats, like that makes a difference too. So if your ticket's, you know, worth $1,000 compared to, you know, $10, you sell 100 of those, like it's significant. So the commission is getting paid out a lot on those big shows. If that show's making millions and millions, like tens of millions of dollars, I would safely say the commission's making 7 figures as well. Safely say that. I mean, there's just no way that they're not. Or high 6 figures. Like we're talking about $800,000. Like we're talking about like big payouts for the commission. So I think we're nice suits, guys.
You want to get into the relatively big fight this weekend?
Yes, I guess so. We've only been on an hour. You know, it's been on for too long here. Canelo Triple G, a fight that no one's talking about. No one seems to care about. It seems like it's years too late. Canelo took the big L against Bivol, which I don't want to talk about. It's a weird Canelo fight week, Gary, isn't it?
It is. It doesn't feel like I was sort of saying when you fell off air for a minute. Like I don't see, this is not like must see TV to me, and I think this is going to absolutely bomb as a pay-per-view. Right? I think people are already fed up with the zone, that they're charging you more and giving you almost zero content. Like when is there boxing on the zone anymore? It used to be like 2 fights a week. It would be a Friday fight or 2 Saturday fights, right? Like a card in the UK and a card in the US. Now you get like 1 card every 3 weeks in the zone.
Are they doing it again where, like, if you have, like, let's say, DirecTV cable subscription, you can pay pay-per-view on that regardless of having a zone subscription?
I haven't even looked in. Yeah, I think so.
Because if that's available, then, like, the number is going to be decent. Like, the number is going to be above 600,000.
I don't see it. I say between 300 and 400.
They still have too much casual name cachet, especially, like, Canelo. Like, Canelo took an L, yes. But he's still Canelo. He still does, when it's a decent fight against a decent name, he does around $1 million buys. And Triple G still, again, has some name cachet, I would say, amongst casuals, so to speak, you know? Even though he really hasn't earned that, you know, sustaining star power, and it really hasn't been shown that it's there still, I think this will show it. If this does 750, I won't be surprised. Not at all.
No, I wouldn't be. People are hurting for money right now. Like now is not the time to start draining people's pockets. It's really not. Like I promise you, people are not doing great right now. Like
I mean, that's definitely true. I mean, economically, I mean, we had like 40 Americans slip into poverty in the last like 2 years alone. Inflation, I mean, I made a joke about it earlier, but like inflation is super high. I mean, things are rough. I mean, gas prices have gone down slightly closer to like pre-Russia Ukraine status, I guess. It's still a little bit expensive. You know, I think roughly what you're saying is correct, Gary, that like a lot of people are hurting financially. So the idea of like these events doing the same numbers they did like pre-recession, pre-double recession, like pre all these things. I just see people often like in like times of like these spend their money on things that make them happy. Right?
You're right about that. That's like, historically true. Right? Depression,
so like entertainment,
yeah,
alcohol, like these things, like people are sad, like they just want to like drown their sorrows a little bit, I guess. this is a big holiday weekend too. It's Mexican Independence Day weekend. I think
true.
you're miscounting that. You're miscounting that as well. I mean, Mexicans are gonna be out, man. They're gonna be proud this weekend. They already are. Trust me.
I forget. I'm trying to think back to my Series 7 days. Like when I say they're not recession-proof stock, they actually work counter to the when the economy is bad, these stocks are good. Like Budweiser, right? Like I forget what they call them, but they're not. It's not recession-proof is one thing. This is actually they work the opposite, right? They aren't safe in the recession. They thrive in a recession. Yeah. I kind of like what they call the vice stocks, right?
Yeah. And when's the last time we had a good enough fight to care about? Like, even though people aren't really caring about,
but they're charging you. I saw a study that almost 40% of Americans are concerned on how they're going to pay a utility bill, how they're going to keep their lights on, how they're going to keep their water running. I don't know that this is going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a huge number. Like, there are 350 million people in the country. 40% of them don't know are concerned about paying a utility bill.
But we also get that top stratum of the economic ladder, so to speak, that have made boatloads of money in this recession. They've made out, right? There's a reason why the richest 4 or 5 men in the world, all Americans, all of a sudden got massively richer in the last 2 years. That top, let's say 10%, so to speak, even that's a large margin if you really look at it. They're not hurting as much. So can they offset that cost? Yes. And again, certain things like it being a holiday where we see more fight parties instead of people just fight on their own. I think we're going to see, that sort of adaptation in the Mexican American community in the Southwest. I think long term, you are correct though, Gary. Boxing's financial setup as the U.S. economy changes and declines, because if you're just not reading the tea leaves, people fucking read them. I think that
if you haven't been listening to me before, listen now. Texas needs to secede.
I don't think that fixes it, Gary, but I like the enthusiasm. I do.
It needs to get away from this. This is like watching a train wreck at 10 miles an hour.
But we've said this before, Gary. The pay-per-view industry has declined overall, anyways, in the last 10 years. Ever since 2008, the pay-per-view industry has been in slow decline with certain peaks, and it's just been, I think people have ignored it because we've hit certain numbers that have been record-breaking. Mayweather Pacquiao, Mayweather McGregor were record-breaking events, right? So people will go, "Oh, we're not the industry's not in decline. We had the biggest fight ever." I'm like, "Yeah, that's true, but that's also with highly inflated numbers due to the industry being way different now, way more saturated in every capacity." So I don't know. I think that people are ignoring those signs, but I don't think Canelo Triple G is going to be a victim of it. Canelo and Triple G are too big for that.
Maybe. I just think that people are hurting for money right now, and again, we'll see. We'll see what the number does. I guess I'm not going to be surprised with whatever number it does, because I can see it doing a big number because it's Canelo and Triple G. But I can see it doing tanking too, because it's way too late. It's not that fascinating of a fight, and Americans are hurting right now to pay for basic things, right? The amount of summer vacations, did you go on summer vacation this year? That number dropped by 50%. So, if 100 million people usually go on a summer vacation, only 50 million went on this year. That's a massive decrease. People are cutting back on these kind of expenditures, and maybe this, instead of going out, people will pay for this instead. I don't know. Maybe it's possible. But it's so easy to stream now, and I feel back in the day, the streams used to be kind of bootleg. They're really good now. You watch them; they're basically uninterrupted.
Dude, we get some HD streams.
Yeah, that's what I'm good.
I mean, allegedly.
You remember watching them, and you get an advertisement pop up, you get a pop up. You can watch them now; they're pretty They're seamless. They're high quality. They're good. I'm not encouraging anyone to do that. I'm just saying that's an option that is out there.
Frank saying, Matt, any shows in Ontario soon? No, I have a show October 1st, Commerce Casino, Commerce, California / Los Angeles, California. Check it out, Frank. I think the cheapest ticket's $75. And we have 12 fights on the card right now. And they're really good fights. Like I said, Eric Mondragon, I think he has a big future. He's on the card. Chris Rios, God, 10-0, 110 pounds, Gary. So up our lane, right?
Yeah, little guys. Yeah.
Some Compton boxing. So, street, certified. And the motherfucker hits hard. Hard. I think he has like 8 or 9 knockout wins out of that 10. Like, he's good. Really good. I posted a video on my Instagram, like a little promo of him. So go check it out, people. Matt Hunter, MCR, right there on Instagram. Check out the video of Chris Rios and some other guys on the card. Really good. I have like 4 more videos that I need to edit that I'm just slacking on. Quickly, Gary. Canelo Triple G prediction. Canelo
I think Canelo stops him. I don't think he's gonna ice him, put him out, but I think this at the accumulation, this is gonna get stopped. I'm gonna say they stop it at the round 9, in the corner.
Yeah, I'm writing on the wall a little bit. Even though Canelo took a bad loss against Dimitri Bivol, which was very embarrassing. I think people are misconstruing like what that loss means, and Canelo will absolutely dog walk old man Triple G, and I'm here for it. I'm here to like finally put the Triple G fans like away forever.
But you know what they're gonna say? They're gonna say it was over the hill. It doesn't count.
Was he over the hill for his entire career, where he did little to nothing?
I don't think
his biggest win is Daniel Jacobs.
I think he lost that fight.
He did.
On my card, I had him losing Derevchenko too. I think everyone did. The biggest win he has on my card is Lemieux. Gabe Rosado. I'm just being honest.
Stop, Gabe Rosado. That's a joke.
One of the best wins on his resume. If you have him losing to Derevchenko, which everyone does, and if you have him losing to Jacobs, which probably most people, probably more than half, do, what are his wins? Lemieux.
I'm not getting into this, Gary. I'm not getting into this. I'll give him on BoxRec. He beat Daniel Jacobs. I'll give him that.
Okay, fine.
Okay, I'll give him that.
Oh, give him Derevchenko because there ain't no way he won that fight. I can't give him. I can't. That's too ridiculous.
Gary, we can talk quickly about Usyk Joshua. I know you want to brag and gloat about how Usyk is the best.
I got that out of my system the last time, though. Like, Usyk is the best. Usyk is not going to have the staying power to be ranked as a top 10 heavyweight, right? Like, he's not going to put together enough wins. He's not going to be able to run through. He's already 35. He's probably got 1 fight left, right? So he's not going to be recognized as a top 10 heavyweight, rightfully so. What I would say are there 10 people in the history of the heavyweight division who can beat Alexander Usyk? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There might be 2 or 3, maybe.
I'm not going to step on that one.
No, step on that one.
I will say this, though. Anthony Joshua, like, get some help. Like, whatever that was post-fight, like, go see a sports psychologist, bro. Like, that was weird. Like, that was probably the weirdest post-fight I've ever seen, or at least since, like, Paulie and Adrian Broner. Right? Like, it's up there with that one. And for totally different reasons, but, like, it's up there for that.
I think Joshua fought as well as he could. It's not even close to good enough, right? Like, he fought well. He did. I thought Garcia, I like Garcia's game plan. They went to the body more. There was more combinations, right? He was trying to counter right back. Usyk would hit him and he would try to come right back. It would not to get behind in the rounds, but it's just like it's not enough. And there's a whole thing now: is AJ overrated? Well, it all depends on where you rated him, right? Like I've always said, Joshua's a good heavyweight.
Look, I blame the monarchy. Okay, hear me out. When AJ was on his like fuck white people shit and was like only do black businesses, remember that? Like that was peak aggressive AJ.
Yeah.
And then whatever reason, somebody took him aside and was like, "Don't you dare ever say that again, or the queen will banish you." And then he was forced to give a eulogy at her funeral. So, I mean, I'm just saying the links are there, but Joshua was much better at one point in time. I don't know what happened to him.
About the queen, I didn't want to put this in the chat because I didn't want to offend her, but I'm not trying to be insulting or insensitive. I really don't know. Like, so if you know, please tell me. I'm not trying to belittle her in any way. I don't know her. I'm sure she's a fine lady. I don't know anything about her. What did she do? Like, what has she done to be so beloved? Like, what are her what this is what she did to make everyone's life like. I'm asking a serious question.
Gary, let me give you serious answers, okay?
No, I'm being sincere. I don't know. What did she do like that made her so beloved as a character, as a person, like that? The world stops and skips a beat when she died.
I think it's one of those things where like part of the world stopped to mourn her death, not me, and then like the rest of the world was like watching in like pure fascination at that other part of the world that was like, I don't know, like zombie sheep and like mourning some like rich monarch. It's crazy to me, Gary. Maybe because like we come from a place that like had a revolution against a monarchy, and like specifically that one. Specifically that woman right there. I don't get it. To me, like, and the crazy part is like England had like multiple revolutions trying to get like the monarchy out of there, and they just keep coming back for some fucking reason. I don't know what's in the water over there. It's weird. It's very, very weird because her entire legacy is like that of pure colonization, and like somewhat like fascism too. Like there's tons of videos out there of her doing the fucking Nazi salute in the 30s. Her parents teaching her it,
She's been around. Like she's 96 years old. Like she's been around. For all of that. Yeah.
She's been around. I mean her entire like jewelry set is all jewelry not from England. It's from their colonies where they committed mass murder, rape, and slavery. Literally, like the British East India Trading Company was like the largest slave trading company in the world. It's just mind blowing to me. Like her family, herself, like there's a lot of events like even within her life, and I forget like what year it is. It was until I want to say like the 70s where she still technically was like the sovereign over like 60 countries through the Commonwealth system. Like it's absurd to me. Like the French Revolution taught us some good things, guys. Okay, there's some great lessons there on what to do with monarchy. Like I would even argue like the American Revolution didn't go hard enough, but that's beside the point. But I don't know. It's weird. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Gary, we definitely need to do a politics show soon, though.
I don't know what she did. Like I'm not trying to be insulting, like belittle her or anything. I don't know what she did to make her so beloved. Right. So if you could tell me, I'm not. And people, I ask me, what did she do? I'm like, I'm ignorant here. Help me, teach me what she do. And like no one has given me an answer. I was like, I'm not. It's sad. She died. Okay. But I don't. People die every day. 96-year-olds die every day. Is what I'm saying, right? Like I don't get like what she did that made everyone, and no one's been able to give me an answer. So
did you see people compare her to Nelson Mandela?
I've heard I don't know if I've heard that specific. I've heard all types of that's what okay. Well, what did she do? And there's never really an answer. She was really nice. She was good with kids. I was like, all right, that's awesome. That's cool.
Wait. Her family, we know for a fact, not good with underage people.
Hey, so look, hey, that's not her, man. Don't give people black eyes for fights they weren't in.
I mean, we have one guy in our family that allegedly killed a princess. We have another guy that was on Evan's plane. I'm just saying here, guys. We can even
I've heard this too.
If you wanted to ignore the colonialism and the mass genocide of millions and millions of people within her lifetime that the British Empire has done, just the nasty, sliming that stuff with the family is enough to disqualify her. Is enough. You add all the other stuff on top of it, I'm people should be rejoicing in the street. There's a reason Irish Twitter was going strong, man, and they're still going strong, man. They're partying it up. Shout out to Ireland.
I don't wish death upon anyone. I just you know.
The IRA is great, allegedly. Anyways, Gary, what else to talk about?
Joshua and Fury. Looks like it's going to happen. Joshua agreed to the terms.
Okay, who cares?
Okay, that was my question. Do you care? Apparently,
that is
allegedly, no.
That's the worst timing for that fight. The worst. Why?
Because Fury's not going to fight Usyk. Here, Fury, Wilder, send the contract. I'll sign it. Send it back. Joshua, send the contract. I'll sign it and send it back. I want to fight Chisora for a third time. How about Usyk? Well, I'm retired, and if you give me $500 million, maybe I'll think about. He ain't fighting Usyk. He can't beat Usyk. He's not gonna fight Usyk. Was he gonna outbox Usyk over 12 rounds? Come on. Yo, with the punchers.
I just don't care. I don't care about Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, in the year of our Lord 2022, 2023. I just don't.
It looks like it's going to happen in December, and then he's not going to fight Usyk, right?
I care more about, and maybe this is just bias. I'll put that out there. Disclaimer. I would care more about Deontay Wilder, Andy Ruiz, than Fury, Anthony Joshua.
Agreed.
It's a far more intriguing matchup to me.
Yeah.
I think everyone agrees that Tyson Fury outboxes Anthony Joshua to a 12-round decision. You may have even stopped Anthony Joshua late, actually. I'll give him that.
I want to see Wilder in this Helenius fight. I do want to see what he looks like. Make sure he's not washed, right? Make sure he's still Wilder. If he is, I'm leaning towards Wilder in that fight, but that's a great fight. Ruiz, that's a really good, that's an interesting fight. To me,
last topic, Gary, before we head out of here. I don't mean to cut you off, but I do have to run. Gotta get the kids to bed. Let's talk a little bit about Earl Spence, Terrence Crawford. That is lined up for, I forget the exact date, November or something, I believe. Mike Collins reported that all the financial agreement or terms were agreed upon. Just waiting on lawyers to agree to all the verbiage, I guess. I'll say this, Gary. I'll believe it when I see it. So I don't have that much thoughts on it because we've been in the red zone for a lot of big fights and they don't materialize. But I don't think anyone is out there confused about this matchup like they were in 2018. I think most people, the majority of people, are sliding towards picking Earl Spence to win this. And I don't think that would be surprising.
No. When we were at the weigh-in for and the fight week for Ortiz and McKinson, Crawford was there for everything because of Hooker. He's the same camp as Hooker, and they're really close. And he said then, wait till November. And we're like, well, this is already August. November? That's just 3 months away. Like this thing would have been announced because this is they're gonna need to start selling this thing right away to make their money on it, right? Because it's gonna be an expensive fight to put together. Now we're a month and a half later almost, and there's still I don't see this getting made, not for November, which is what Crawford said. He said wait for November, and that was the rumored date, November. We're in the middle of September already. Like they're gonna need time to build this and sell this. I think we've run out of time. I don't think again, I'll believe it when I see it, but like, I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news. I don't think we're getting this fight in this calendar year. I'll say that.
I will disagree with you 100%, Gary.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to treat that fight with like a 12-week, 16-week promo cycle. Like, that's not what they're doing. They're going to be happy they make this one and make whatever money they can, because it's not going to be as big as they think it's going to be. And I think the people that are in charge that really make the most of the money, a la like Arum and Heyman, they're quite aware of that. That the metrics aren't there for this fight to do 1 million pay-per-view buys. It's just not there. So I expect them to kind of push this one as fast as possible and get out of the way.
They're going to lose money on it because it's going to be expensive to put together. Each guy's going to get a guarantee of $4 million. You know that. That's $8 million.
Are they?
Are they going to take it for less because they can get $4 million to fight someone else? Like, you're going to take less to fight Spencer. You know what I'm saying? You're going to take less to fight the other top guy in the weight class. That's why it hasn't happened to this point. Like, if you're guaranteeing each guy $4 million and then a cut of the pay-per-view, think about how many pay-per-views you need to sell. And I'm with Matt. I don't think this is as big as us boxing fans think it is. Like, I don't think this crosses over to the casuals as much as a Canelo fight.
Like, just because like Dame Lillard like tweets about it doesn't mean like the casuals know about this fight, or that like
they care. Like, they're gonna spend money on it. Like, they care.
Fan does.
Like,
it's not. I think the fight's amazing. The fight's one of the best that can be put together in boxing, but I think that they're just going to try to push it and just get rid of it as fast as possible and move on.
As long as we get it, I don't care. I'm not convinced that we're going to get this fight in this year. And
think about this, Gary. If they're making, let's say, $4 million a pop, right? Let's say plus pay-per-view bonus. Everyone knows it's not going to make many pay-per-view buys. The idea of doing like a 12-week, like expensive media and PR like cycle is just not financially feasible. So you're going to expedite and just maximize a short window of time to promote it for, the most bang for your buck, so to speak, and just have the fight because they're going to get the lion's share of the money, right? And that's what I would do. Because if it's not going to make that much, why would you invest and put another 3 or 4 million in production value before the fight even takes place? Just promote it when it's not going to do that.
I don't see, like, what do you think the guarantee purse would be? You think I'm out of pocket here at $4 million ish?
I think 3 and 4 makes sense. It's like 3 for Crawford, 4 for Spence.
You're gonna have to sell a ton of pay-per-views for them to both make money on this. Like, I feel like this is like Kovalev and Ward again. It's like, okay, we're really into this as fight fans, and it'll do more than that, right? It'll do more than 150, but like, it's more in line with that than it is with Canelo Triple G1. Like, it's closer to Ward Kovalev than it, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how they make their money back on this. Like, I feel like they're gonna lose money on this, and hyping it and putting a big promotion on it may make that loss worse, or they may view it as a way that we have to do this just to make our money back. I don't know, but like, the reason why this hasn't been made so far is purely economic. They don't have enough money to pay both fighters.
They have enough money for programs to pay to them. You worry about it.
Get your boy Marv to
Anyways, Gary, final thoughts, man. Let's head out of here.
It's good to be back. Hopefully back next week. Follow me all forms of social media, 3D Boxing, Texas Boxing Scene. Please do me a solid. Go to Texas Boxing Scene. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment, like, hit the bell icon, all this stuff that YouTube likes. Find me there. And it is September 15th, 2022. And Texas is still not a country. If you haven't heard me yet, listen to me now. Make Texas a country again.
Anyways, it's funny that an anarchist is saying to make more bureaucratic governments just smaller.
Well, it's breaking away from the
Gary, let me make my jokes. Just
go ahead.
Just relax. Come on. I got a book for you, by the way. I don't know if I sent it to you. It's all about the Texas Revolution.
But let me know. Yeah.
Yes. I'll find it. I forgot where it is exactly. But anyways, obviously hit the like button, share the show, all that, YouTube bullshit. Be back next week, hopefully. Find us on social media. Right there, below, links below in the description, all that fun stuff. Be back next week, like I said. Peace.